Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Now, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir has seen some protests in the past few days. Social media is filled with pictures and videos of violence that's left one policeman killed and about 100 people injured. There are cries for Azadi and protests against heavy taxation, high inflation and electricity shortages. What will be the outcome? This is a question for both India and Pakistan. Now first, let's understand what Pakistan Occupied Kashmir is. Now, the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir acceded to India on the 26th of October 1947. The ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh, did this because his kingdom was being invaded by tribals led by the Pakistan army. The Indian army moved in and fought the raiders, and this led to the first India-Pakistan war. But on the 1st of January 1949, India declared a ceasefire. Why it agreed to a ceasefire when the Indian army was on the offensive is still a matter of debate nearly 8 decades later. So the situation on the ground today is that Pakistan occupies 72,000 kilometers of Jammu and Kashmir, what India calls Pakistan Occupied Kashmir or PoK. Now, PoK has two parts. Gilgit-Baltistan, which Pakistan carved out as a separate province in 2009. This area is roughly the size of Assam. The southern part of PoK is roughly the size of Tripura. This southern territory is where protests have broken out over the past few days. Will this be the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War movement where a popular people's movement was successful in uprooting the authoritarian Pakistani army from its soil? And should PoK come back to India, what will be the cost to India? Joining me to discuss this are prominent human rights activist Jamil Maqsood, Dr. Priyanka Singh of the MP IDSA, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul here in the studio with me. Jamil, I want to start by asking you, why are people in PoK protesting? What's the complaint that they have, and why are these slogans being raised, pro-India slogans?
Thank you very much for inviting us to highlight and share the current situation which is evolving in Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir region. Since 1 year, this is not a very new phenomena. Basically, this is the continuation of social and political upheavals of the past. Like the first ever rebellion took place against Pakistan in 1950, and that continued until 1955. And more than 200 Pakistani soldiers, which were the members of Pakistan Constabulary, which was at that time it was PC. Now it is Punjab Constabulary, but at that time it was called Pakistan Constabulary. They were arrested by the local people, and General Usmani, who surrendered in Bangladesh, was one of them. So in 60s, in 70s, in 80s, even in 90s, there was a massive upheaval against Pakistani policies in the region, and especially against jihadism, proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir under Indian administration. But because of non-availability of the print and electronic media, the voices of the people of our region were not coming out. And Pakistan, as usual, was and have been blacking out all these demonstrations, protests, and hue and cry of the local people. But now, because of the social media, you are able to find out videos, visuals, pictures, and also the voices of the people. If there would not have been the social media or the information technology gadgets, even in 2024, it would have been impossible for outer world to see what's happening in PoK. The current situation, as I said, it is the continuation of the past movements. Now, it is called the last struggle, now or never, because slowly and gradually, Pakistan has levied illegal taxes on this very small region. The total population of this region, as you said, is less than Rawalpindi division. And there is the cabinet of 53 persons, and 12 are directly elected from Pakistan, and most of them are Pakistani nationals. And their case is running before the High Court in Muzaffarabad that they are not the state subject and they are Pakistani nationals, so therefore their membership in the Legislative Assembly must be revoked, and all the perks and privileges which they have received over the years must be returned and recovered. So this is the one thing. The other thing is it's become because of the taxes which are levied on hydroelectricity. And people are asking that an electricity that is produced by the voter, so why you have levied fuel adjustment charges and GST and GST plus GST and one tax and plus another tax. So the cost of electricity per unit, that is 2.59 paisa sold to Pakistan, and that we are repurchasing very same electricity per unit 80 rupees. So that was totally injustice. And the other thing was the subsidy on flour and other food essentials was revoked. So it was first the people in Gilgit-Baltistan who staged massive protest for the revival of those lawful subsidies. It is not illegal or something that the people are extra constitutionally demanding. They think that it is their lawful right being administered by Pakistan, because both the peripheries, Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK, are not the constitutional or the legal part of Pakistan under Article 1, under Article 257, and under Article 161, 153, and IRSA and the Council of Common Interest. Because when someone calls that Gilgit-Baltistan is declared as a province of Pakistan, that is factually incorrect. Because Pakistan ostensibly claimed and propagated. But since the people of Gilgit-Baltistan have no legal representation at the National Assembly of Pakistan, at the Senate of Pakistan, at IRSA, at PoK, at Council of Common Interest, and also NFC, National Finance Commission Award. So how come you have declared...
Very important points there, Mr. Maqsood. The fact that you've mentioned that the people of PoK and especially Gilgit-Baltistan do not have representation in Pakistan's assembly. Aditya, very important point there, the fact that it's like no taxation without representation, and Gilgit-Baltistan and indeed PoK, what we call Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, is a virtual colony of Pakistan. They have no rights. It's more or less directly administered by by Islamabad and in this case Rawalpindi as well. How does this make the case for India to reintegrate PoK? How difficult is it going to be for us to do that?
You know, firstly, of course, the Indian Parliament has pledged that Pakistan Occupied Kashmir is an integral part of India. If not today, if not tomorrow, perhaps there will be a day that PoK will be a part of India. And Dr. S. Jaishankar has been repeatedly asked, the Indian Foreign Minister, that, you know, what about PoK? And he had something interesting to say. He said that, you know, nobody actually thought of Article 370 being abrogated from J&K.
Yes.
We made it happen. And perhaps that is the reason that people are not asking us about situation in Kashmir. Because there are peaceful elections happening today. And on the other hand, you know, this is an ironic situation.
Absolutely. On the day that you have elections in Kashmir.
On a day you have elections in Kashmir, more than 25 to 50% voting has been polled already. In Shopian, there is more than 30% voting, which is extraordinary. This is very close to Pulwama, where the Pulwama terror attack took place. So, just look at the comparison. There are massive violent protests happening in Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. There are elections democratically happening in the Kashmir Valley. On the other hand, the kind of stone pelting and violence that we saw in Lal Chowk, in Nauhata, in Shopian, Pulwama, Kulgam is not visible for the last 5 years.
It's in fact visible on the other side,
it's
across the border.
It's visible in Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, in Kotli, in Rawalakot, in Muzaffarabad, in Mirpur. In fact, there's a long march that the Jammu and Kashmir Awami Action Committee has organized towards Muzaffarabad. It will reach there perhaps later tonight or tomorrow. And that protest is being crushed. And look at the kind of anger that people have. One, a lot of locals, including children and women, are injured by the Pakistani security forces. Now the Kashmiris, the common Mirpuris, people from Kotri, are catching Pakistani police and almost lynching them. That means that their political rights are being crushed. Their fundamental rights have been crushed
and they are up in revolt. And I want to bring in Dr. Priyanka Singh on this point. Dr. Singh, you've been studying PoK very closely. You're a scholar at the MP IDSA. You know, as Aditya mentioned, that you couldn't think of a time when Article 370 would be abrogated, but it was 5 years back. Do you see the possibility of PoK being reintegrated into India peacefully, we hope, in the not so distant future? And what will it cost us to do this? Would it have to be a political, diplomatic, and maybe a military option as well that has to be exercised at some point?
I think, you know, if you talk about integrating PoK in India, I think if you look at the underlying, the pretext of India's PoK policy, it is that, you know, like India claims PoK as its integral part. So somewhere that policy is kind of really looking forward to integrating India.
Absolutely. There's an act of parliament. I mean, there was a resolution in parliament 30 years back.
The act of parliament, I think it's also the instrument of accession, because the instrument of accession was signed by the Maharaja of Kashmir, I mean, who was the ruler of the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir at that point of time, signed the accession. So that is the initial thing, and after that, of course, the parliamentary resolution came. So that is one thing. And so it's kind of a given to really state that India's policy on PoK, I think it looks forward to kind of integrating PoK with India at some point of time. Regarding the options which you spoke about, the political, diplomatic and the military, of course, I think politically, yes, we have a position. Diplomatically, especially if you look at the last few years, I think we've been very proactive on our approach towards PoK. We've been very vocal at the official level, which is, I would say, somewhat a break from the past, because initially we were not kind of speaking so frequently on PoK, but now there is official commentary from the Indian government on.
And it's frequent. The commentary is frequent, as Aditya mentioned, that the top government officials have been raising it on very often, in fact.
And the best part is that this commentary from the Indian government is very articulate. It's very fine, also, and it is taken notice at the international community's level also.
Absolutely,
So talking about the current process, I just want to briefly add that the current protest, I think if you look at it, it's the cumulative impact or the outburst of decades of apathy and neglect. But what stands out in the current this current spell of protest is the fact that it is happening in AJK. And I'm not saying that this is the first time there are protests in AJK. This has been happening for quite some time, as the previous speaker also said. But we have to take note of the fact that in the so-called Azad Jammu and Kashmir, there is tighter control from the Pakistan establishment as compared to Gilgit-Baltistan. So we have to take note of the fact that these protests are happening in AJK, where there is so much of tight control, but even then they are happening and they are sustaining also. The second, I think the second thing is that, yes, the demography in AJK is quite changed. I mean, I think Pakistan has made conscious efforts to ensure that the demography is not what it was in 1947. So we have to look at these protests in that perspective, you know, despite the tight control of the military and the establishment in AJK, and that the fact that the demography has also undergone a lot of change, these protests are happening. So this is a serious problem for Pakistan in that sense.
It's a serious problem.
And second point, I just want to add that when CPEC was coming up, you know, in Pakistan, so there was this debate happening, you know, what if there is so much of development happening across the line of control? So what impact will it have on J&K? How will people react to that? But look at where CPEC has gone today. I mean, it's kind of, I don't think so it has really been able to achieve those kind of high-sounding objectives that it was stated out to achieve. That has not happened. So what is happening is that people across the LOC, maybe they are looking towards India, because India is kind of charting a particular course.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask this question, Dr. Singh, to Jamil Maqsood. Mr. Maqsood, are people in PoK actually looking across the LOC and looking at India? What is the end game? Do they really want to integrate with India? Do they want to break away from Pakistan? What is the sense that you're getting from people on the ground there?
Thank you very much. It is not only the people on the ground, we are also very much part of that movement and that peaceful struggle for the local rights. We have to understand the nature of the division of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
And the first and foremost desire of the people is to integrate themselves with the rest of the Jammu and Kashmir, which is under the administration of India.
Yes.
So it is their vehement and overwhelming desire. It is their wish, because when they see things differently occurring and happening in different administrations, under the Indian administration and under the colonization of Pakistan, so they feel a very clear difference. So their first and foremost wish is to be the part of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, which they have been. It is not that they were not the part of Jammu and Kashmir earlier, and now they want to be the part of that region, but they want to revive their language, their culture, their shared history, and all other things that are to be accomplished as a nationhood, as a nation state, or as a state under the jurisdiction of India.
Absolutely. Important point there, Aditya. As Jamil Maqsood mentioned, that the desire is for integration with India's Jammu and Kashmir. Would this be a priority for the government, the Modi government, if it comes back for a third term, as it looks increasingly likely it will?
Well, certainly India is aware of the security challenges in this region. We have borne the brunt. I, as a journalist, as a Kashmiri as well, have been a victim of this. But I think the government of India is very calculative. The Prime Minister in his interviews has repeatedly mentioned that we have ignored Pakistan.
Right.
I am not willing to speak on Pakistan or engage on Pakistan. They can get their food. We will be happy. Do waqt ki roti, chai pani. That is enough. And that is a strategic, calculated, stand that India has taken post Pulwama and Balakot. That we do not want to engage. We do not want to give the kind of prominence that we gave to Pakistan anymore. And that has been a very good stand as well. The real threat, China, is something that we are focused on now. Secondly, I completely agree with my friend Jamil Maqsood and Priyanka when they say that this is years and decades long of anger, of despair, of this kind of frustration that is coming out on the streets. And there are two things. One is not just the fundamental rights that they are not getting, and they are being treated as second-class citizens as compared to Pakistanis. The reality is that after 2019, they are looking at India. They are looking at the Indian Kashmir. They are looking at the prosperity, the tourism economy really increasing, and saying that we have the same place. We have the same Kashmir. We have the same Gilgit, Baltistan, Muzaffarabad, Neelam. Why aren't we getting tourists? And interestingly, when it comes to media, Reuters, AP, AFP is not reporting these protests. Why aren't they reporting? Why don't they have correspondents out there? And lastly, Sandeep, I'm holding this phone. This is a poster that I saw yesterday. A local from Pakistan Occupied Kashmir near Kotli sent me this. These are three flags. One is a flag of Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, AJK, so-called AJK. Second is flag of India, and third is flag of Pakistan. There is a cross on the flag of Pakistan. There is a tick mark on flag of India. And AJK flag is as it is. And it says, the slogan in Urdu says, Kashmiriyon ki ek hi awaaz, khud mukhtari ya Hindustan. They want to either go with India or go on their own. They do not want to stay with Pakistan. And this is the resentment, this is the anger that is there, which will only grow in the months to come.
Anger that will grow only in the months to come, and it's very clear that this is something that India will be looking at very closely, given the fact that the kind of high-level statements that are coming out about PoK in particular, Aditya, and not just, while the government of India may have switched off on Pakistan, it's got laser focus on Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK. But that's a story, that's a developing story that we'll be tracking very closely. I'd like to thank Dr. Priyanka Singh, Mr. Jamil Maqsood, and my colleague Aditya Kaul for joining us this evening to talk about what PoK will cost India. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar recently said that every political party was committed to ensuring PoK returns to India. Now, how can India get back PoK? Will it be military, diplomatic, or legal action? Watch our story, Mission PoK, only on the News9 Plus app.
August 1947. India got its freedom and Pakistan was created. Since then till now, there is an unfinished business of partition. And that is taking back its territories of Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK being held by Pakistan. Is war an option, or can we win back our territories in the International Court of Justice?
The very law that created Pakistan itself makes J&K part of India. If Pakistan disowns this law, there is no Pakistan. The National Command Authority and all are all subservient to Pakistan military. So the possibility of a major loss translating itself to use a nuclear device is possible.
So you have to have a full idea of what this entails, militarily, economically, politically, internationally. Then you can think about acting or planning.
Reuniting Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK.
India's elections have seen technology landmarks over the decades. In 2004, it was Prime Minister Vajpayee's pre-recorded messages to mobile phone users. In 2014, it was Prime Minister Modi's holograms. But in 2024, there's a double-edged disruption out there. Generative artificial intelligence, which is used to make deep fakes. We've seen AI-generated versions of Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah's speeches. This is a worrisome development as we head into the final phases of Indian elections 2024. And to talk about this worrying development, I'm joined by Senthil Nayagam, founder of Neonym AI, Subimal Bhattacharjee, and my colleagues Justin Thomas in the studio. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. I want to start by asking Senthil this. Senthil, we spoke about the Gen AI impact on elections before the elections began. You said a lot of people would start using it. Is this more or less in line with what your predictions were? The fact that we've seen Gen AI deep fakes of Prime Minister Modi's speech, Home Minister Amit Shah's speeches being distorted. People have been arrested for this. Is this only the tip of the iceberg that we're looking at, or is this here to stay? Are Gen AI deepfakes going to be the norm moving ahead?
Okay, so we have crossed the midway level in the elections part. We have only a few more things, and
yes,
June 4th we'll have the results available.
Right.
So first part, it's a new capability, and people are going to use this again and again. If it is effective, the third part is the technology is one aspect, and but still people need to understand the psychology. Also, need some creativity.
Right.
Raw technology won't be very interesting for people.
Yes.
We did our first video with for the Karnataka part, right?
Yes.
Was okay. Will there be an emotional connect between a potential fan,
right,
and the leader? Okay.
Right.
Everybody knew the leader was dead.
Right.
But can it trigger a nostalgia?
Right.
You feel good things about a person. When somebody dies, we don't remember anything bad things about them. Only the good things is what we want to remember. So bringing voice, face, and content which kind of targets you, doesn't attract you. So I think a lot of people have tried it. I think even Tamil Nadu, I think Congress, some candidates have done it. ADMK has done it.
Right.
Automated calls were there. Some video messages were also being sent. Okay, that's how the current systems work. And this is a new era which starts from here. And this will also have an impact on how US elections are fought. So can somebody bring a Reagan back, or a Carter back, or a Kennedy, right? So those kind of things will happen later this year. So we'll see a lot more. But all experiments are happening in India, and we are pioneers as up to date.
Right, we're absolutely the world's largest democracy going to the elections, and of course deepfakes are part of that. Justin, you've done something very interesting about this, a good story. I'm going to come to you in a minute. But first, Subimal Bhattacharjee, how does the voter look at a deepfake and decide what's the real message and what's the deepfake? How can you tell?
He just cannot tell, and possibly, he just gets carried away by whatever is the content. So I think that is the biggest challenge when it comes to being able to contain the whole issue. Because even if you see, you just referred to the Home Minister Amit Shah's video. Now, the content that has been distorted is quite serious in an Indian context, that you're going to take away the reservations. So a good section of people would start believing, thinking that you have seen a strict Home Minister taking many corrective steps on many fronts. So this could logically follow. So the narratives generally try to spin out thus. Hence, for a common man, it gets very difficult to decipher, and so the impact is that much.
Right. It's difficult for the common man to decipher. But Justin, you did something very interesting. Tell us about it for your story on AI and deepfakes in the Indian elections.
Yes, as Senthil said, we are trying to, it can be used as a negative aspect and also use it as a positive for campaigns to be run on based on AI. So what we did was basically get 4 former prime ministers.
Right.
We had our characters from our office itself, our colleagues, acting out those parts, and then we used artificial intelligence to mask their face, their voices, so that they sound like, let's say, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Narasimha Rao, Vajpayee. So that gives an idea about how this technology can be used in a way that is ethical. It is helps you in campaigning, and because you have to at the end of the day embrace the technology that is available.
Right, and it primarily also serves to warn voters.
Exactly.
In a sense that, listen, I'm Vajpayee here. I've been dead for a couple of years, but beware of deepfakes. In fact, let's take a look at Prime Minister Vajpayee brought back to life by Senthil and Munim. Let's take a look.
I witnessed the first general elections, and now India is witnessing its first AI election. Emerging technologies have ruled for the past 3 decades. It was telephone calls in the 1990s, mobile messaging in the 2000s, hologram and social media in the 2010s, and now AI. Yes, Rajiv, we have to embrace generative AI. There's panic across the world, but you cannot stop the spread of technology. Cars replaced horses. Drones are taking over from handheld cameras. And now, our robot can do just about anything. Either we change or we will be replaced. Remember Google's Gemini AI goof up? AI claimed that Prime Minister Modi's policies are fascist. Later, the tech giant had to apologize. And then they admitted there were issues with the platform.
I wonder what Prime Minister Vajpayee would have said to that astonishingly real deepfake. Senthil, tell us how long it took you and your team to put that together for us. I mean, it's like watching the real Vajpayee, literally, the face and the gestures and the speech. How difficult was it to come up with this?
Okay, I was on a vacation, so I was not available in my office. Okay.
Right.
And else normally I would have got artists myself and did the whole part myself, but I felt maybe it will be easier if I can coordinate with the Mumbai office.
Right, right.
So I worked with Jason and his team, and we had some retakes were there, some corrections were there.
Right.
But it's doing it remotely. First time we're doing it. Always we had 100% control over a whole system.
Okay.
Lighting to face to everything,
right.
But this time was new for us. But it has come out reasonably well. I'm happy with the outcome, and hope, again, the idea is here not to create 100% accurate, authentic. That's not the intention.
Right.
Create, okay, this is possible. Okay,
right.
And that's what opens up. And hope it's a new trend for people and say, hey, what kind of stories we're telling, right?
Right, right. Absolutely. So, Senthil, this point that you mentioned earlier that, the Indian elections is just going to be the test case for AI. And you could see this in the US elections. And in fact, we saw this first in the Argentine elections. Justin and me were talking about it late last year, where the first election that used AI, used deepfakes, both candidates used it to attack each other. And we said instantly that that's how Indian elections are going to play out. What can we expect from the US elections, given how keenly fought it's going to be? It's Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and it's going to be a fight to the finish. What are the potential? Give us 5, cases, potential use cases of AI in the US elections.
It's a different democracy, okay? So
right.
First, there are only 2 parties. There are not N parties. So coalition kind of thing is not the item 1.
Right.
Second part, this time there are a lot of illegal immigrants which have been let and into specific targeted particular states. Okay, this will change the demography of how the voting happens. If some set of people don't vote and some new set of people, another thing, they don't have voter ID and they don't want to enforce it in any way. So that also creates a whole set of. Lot of states have computerized voting, but the computer are known to be hacked or hackable. Everything. Other challenges they have paper-based voting. Okay, so there are a lot of systems. Again, the president election works differently. So ultimately, it's a so each party has a final candidate will come into play, and each state votes, and they have some points, and eventually the points are put together, and that's what the supermajority will come in. And ultimately, it seems like 3 or 4 small states decide who's the president of the country. That's how that operates. California always will vote for Democrats, and probably Miami. And
yes, of course, Senthil. No, but how are AI deepfakes going to be used in that election? Do you think both sides, Democrats and Republicans, will weaponize this? Judging by what's been going on around the world, the trends.
There are 2 parts. Okay, maybe parties will not pay. Okay, so they actually, both the candidates will raise a lot of money. It's not necessarily the party which is fighting elections. It's the 2 individual candidates who are represented by, and they have a lot of super PACs where they have a lot of money, and a lot of these super PACs also give advertisements on channels, television channels and everything. So still TV is relevant in America. Okay, and the smartphone usage is different there. India is far ahead in a lot of these aspects. Okay. So already, like when we were doing voice cloning in India, those kind of models were available a lot earlier. All the AI models to generate Trump and Biden were available for now years now. Okay. The idea is what kind of messaging, who is going to control the messaging part. Creation is easy, messaging is what need to be determined. And both parties are not going to leave it easy. Both candidates will going to fight tooth and nail, and that's very important. But like US doesn't have WhatsApp, so there is a divide between who use iPhone. They will use FaceTime, and they have a particular messaging system. They still have landlines, and calling will happen on that part. Automated calls, robocalls will happen. That's what voice is a common thing for that. So they don't have standard messenger. Okay, so SMS will not work. So there are other systems which we have to try how that operates. Okay, but they will use a lot of toys.
Okay.
In US, we will not have huge hoardings. They will have a 3 feet by 4 feet. That's a small spice they put on each homes whom they are voting for. The system works very differently compared to what India does. Okay,
absolutely.
And it's not very noisy. Except for television, it's all not in that order. So it'll be very interesting how they.
It'll be interesting indeed. And Senthil, thanks very much. You're completely out of time here, but thanks for giving us that roundup on what the US elections, what we can expect from the US elections with AI. You saw the use case for it for the first time here in India, the Indian elections, where candidates were saying things that they'd never said before, thanks to generative AI. That's the first time that they've been used on such a scale. And it just stands to reason that the US elections could do this as well. But thank you very much, Subimal Bhattacharjee, Senthil, and my colleague Justin for this throwing light on this very burning topic of AI in elections, how the Indian elections have been disrupted by generative AI. Andhra Pradesh votes in the assembly elections today. The results are likely to decide an issue that has haunted the state since it was created in 2014. Will Andhra Pradesh get a new capital? The Chandrababu Naidu-led TDP wants the unfinished Amravati to be its capital. Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy wants it to be Visakhapatnam. In fact, this capital issue has continued to haunt state politics since AP was bifurcated to create Telangana in 2014. And joining me to discuss this, my colleagues Sudha Sadanand, KV Prasad, and A. Sai Shekhar. Welcome to the News9 Plus Show. Prasad, good to see you after a while.
Thanks, Sandeep. Good to see you too.
What's your take on this? Which capital will it be? Will it be Visakhapatnam or will it be Amravati? I'm not asking which party is going to win. Because
if Chandrababu Naidu gets majority, I'm sure he wants to finish the unfinished task. Because he promised in 2014 to build a Singapore-like capital in Amravati. Now that didn't happen. And 5 years later, the political tide changed. And but then finally it went to the courts and it didn't happen. So I think if this election goes through again for YSRCP and if he's back in the saddle again, I think he will implement it this time. Remember, Andhra has to build a capital because the last States Reorganization Act gave a 10-year window for the capital to be decided. So, and Hyderabad was to remain joint capital for 10 years. So, of course, we'll see as we go along how it happens.
Yeah, and time is running out, Sudhas. June 2nd is the date by which Andhra has to vacate Hyderabad.
Absolutely, day of reckoning in the sense for India and also for Andhra Pradesh. How long will it remain on borrowed kind of capital? And I think, although people are not speaking much about it, but sources, my friends are telling me that for the youth, it's like almost living, out of a suitcase. You do not know where you belong. Is it going to be Amravati? Is it going to be the three capital issue, which of course the TDP, BJP and Janasena party, are accusing Jagan Mohan Reddy of saying that it's going to be an administrative nightmare for you to have executive, legislative
three capitals.
Three capitals, he says, much like South Africa, as it were, which is three capital. And what Prasad was saying is very right, because Singapore, they had come actually to do the recce, 30,000 or so acres of land given up by the farmers. Farmers thought, my God, here is Chandrababu Naidu is going to create a kind of, a dream project for us. All that came to naught because Jagan said, no, it's going to be three. The point is that this kind of, this or that, it's a major election issue according to me, which people, they are only talking about Kapus, Kamas, Reddy, they are talking about welfare schemes, the Navratnas, which Jagan has. But the point is, you can't be rudderless, Sandeep.
You can't be rudderless.
You can't be rudderless. There is no word now, like Prasad said, it's going to be over. So what have they been doing? So this whole bifurcation of United Andhra Pradesh into Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, it has been, on and off. Today, if you look at the streets, I mean, I'm sure Sai Shekhar is much better position. He lives in Hyderabad. A lot of people are traveling to Andhra to vote.
Right, exactly.
You see, so there is a bit of a, I mean, I'm sorry to be using analogy. It's almost like the partition, I mean, from Amritsar to Lahore and back.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very tragic.
I mean, the partition of Andhra Pradesh, Sai Shekhar, the fact that this is probably the first time, Sudha, correct me if I'm wrong, that first time that a state actually lost its capital after partition.
Yeah,
it's normally the other way around. Chhattisgarh breaks away, it gets Raipur. Jharkhand breaks away, it gets Ranchi. And here, Telangana breaks away and it takes away Hyderabad. So where is this thing going to end? And why is this not an issue in these state elections? It's been touched upon by YSR. Jagan Reddy has been talking about it, saying that, they're going to declare Hyderabad into a union territory. But what's the sense on the ground, Sai Shekhar?
See, Amaravati capital is a hypothetical city that was non-existent, because actually there is a physical place by name Amaravati, which is one of the Pancharamams where Lord Shiva temple is there. That is about 30 kilometers away from the hypothetical Amaravati, which is a non-existent and a non-starter project.
Right.
But Chandrababu Naidu has been accused of choosing that place to help the people belonging to his caste, because Andhra is completely caste divided.
Right.
And Chandrababu Naidu has taken people on a garden path, and he has shown graphics, and one of the designs that was brought in seemed like an idli stand.
Yes.
And Chandrababu Naidu made it so frivolous that he wanted S.S. Rajamouli, who created Mahishmati in that Bahubali movie. He wanted him to go and negotiate with the Foster and Co, who are appointed as the consultants,
design consultants,
the DPR for the project.
Right.
And also he negotiated with Ishwaran, who is a minister who is now facing severe corruption charges in Singapore.
Yes.
And he wanted to, and Chandrababu Naidu used to say that, we'll make Amaravati Singapore. And then he used to go to Kazakhstan and he will say, he will make it Kazakhstan. He will make it Egypt. He will make Dallas. All these lofty promises he made.
Right.
And finally, he dumped the project by building two temporary structures, which are temporary assembly and temporary secretariat.
Right.
This is how, under Chandrababu Naidu's regime, the capital was mired in controversy.
Yes, absolutely.
And after Jagan Reddy has taken over, he has raised a big bogey about this. And he went on complaining against his judges also, who got some lands in that project.
Yes.
And made a big ruckus about it, and he invited a lot of trouble because of that. Whatever it is, he has not started that project. On the other hand, he wanted to convert Visakhapatnam into a capital city for
executive
the simple
capital,
reason that
yes,
Visakhapatnam has a social infrastructure.
Right.
Any capital city should be a city.
Yes.
And had Chandrababu Naidu chosen Vijayawada or Guntur as capital cities,
right.
This would not have been a problem because
Right.
there were existing cities and there was scope for a expansion or development.
Rather than a completely greenfield capital.
One second, I would like to submit to you
yes,
one thing.
Yes,
why Jagan Mohan Reddy is hell-bent on Visakhapatnam is, Visakhapatnam is one city which has the potential to compete with something like a Hyderabad or a Bangalore
yes.
or Chennai in next 50 years to come at least.
Right.
Otherwise, Andhra would go like an orphan.
Yes.
That is why, and then now put it is a poll plank also, as Sudha was pointing it out. And today's election voting pattern and for June 4th result would decide on which place is the Andhra capital. Because
June 4th, absolutely. The June 4th result will. Yes, June 4th will decide where the capital is going to be. I think this is probably the first Indian election which will decide the fate of a capital city.
Absolutely. And now the opposition is also accusing, amongst other things, of saying Jagan Mohan Reddy has been dangling a carrot.
Yes.
Now the thing is, it's almost blackmail. They allege, you know, to say that, listen, you accept this because there have been a lot of protests. We've seen throughout two, three years before, there were lots of padayatras, marches by these farmers. You feel almost cheated that I gave this up. And for what?
Yeah,
nothing.
It's a mirage.
Come out of it.
It's a mirage. Amravati is just an unfinished dream. But Prasad, in case Chandrababu Naidu does win the elections in Andhra Pradesh, the assembly elections, where is he going to get the money to complete Amravati? It's a hugely expensive project. I mean, it's estimated at what, 1 lakh crore? Where is he going to find the money? Will he depend on the centre to bail him out as he's done in the past when he was an ally with the NDA under Prime Minister Vajpayee?
But I wonder if it's going to be easy now.
Now with Prime Minister Modi, is it going to be the same equation? Because he cannot complete this city without central backing.
No, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me right, I think it was part of the Organization Act that there was a component to allow Andhra to build a new capital.
Yes.
Right? So there was some financial application. I'm not very sure. It's 10-year-old. I don't remember the exact thing, number one. So number two, Chandrababu Naidu experimented with something very unique at that point of time, where he called it land pooling.
Yes.
Something which also got into a bit of a controversy because the ownership pattern was different. They didn't say outrightly buy lands from people who actually own those lands.
Right.
So they did some kind of a thing, which again the farmers' agitation also picked up on that turn because of the change of land. On the question of what happens after June 2, I visualize two scenarios.
Yes.
Because June 4th is election, so June 2, the centre can very well bring about an ordinance to extend the period till a new government comes. And in any case, a new government, even whether it's old Chandrababu Naidu wins or Jagan Reddy wins, they will come to build a new capital. It's not going to happen overnight. Even moving to Vizag, Visakhapatnam, with better infrastructure certainly, but you need a secretariat, need other paraphernalia.
Yes.
So that's going to take time. So I think that it's a more of a technicality. How it happens, and as I think Sudha pointed out, it became a election bogey that Hyderabad will become a UT.
Yes.
I think K.T. Ramarao probably they also talked about it. So I think it was more of a very up in the air, but not the definiteness in that aspect.
Right, but Sudha, that seems to be most likely what Prasad mentioned, the fact that the government would actually extend the June 2nd deadline because there's no way that Andhra Pradesh can be booted out of Hyderabad.
Yeah, but Sandeep, we've seen the centre and the states, actually clashing on many issues.
Yes.
We've seen Karnataka government doing a dharna at Jantar Mantar.
Yes.
Stalin has also said now the BJP is in alliance with the TDP and the Janasena. I'm not saying that the centre will not do due diligence, but I think it's touch and go. So we'll have to wait. But imagine what the youth and others are going through. Imagine asking you, what's your state's capital? It's not Thiruvananthapuram, it's something else. And for me, it's not Chennai, it is like maybe Basti in UP. I mean, what do I do? This is ridiculous. And
this is ridiculous indeed,
and
sad
for the young
and
people.
it's tragic, sad for the young people. And as you put it so poignantly, Sudha, it's like living out of a suitcase. So, Vizag versus Amravati, what is it going to be? We're going to know only on the 2nd of June. My mistake. We're only going to know on the 4th of June when results to the Andhra Pradesh Assembly are decided. we are going to see which party is going to win, and based on that, we will know which is going to be the state, what's the state capital of Andhra Pradesh going to be. It's a very unfortunate turn of events, but that's the way it is. Indian politics over state capitals. But thank you very much, K.V. Prasad and Sai Shekhar, for joining us this evening, and my colleague Sudha Sadanand here in the studio at News9 Plus.